What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Nate. Appreciate you tuning in today. So, we are going to go over a pretty deep topic, and that's going to be on why godly men can't get women, right? Why are men of God having such a hard time finding women these days, right? Why is it that, you know, you have some people who have a incredible success story and it seems like the majority of men just can't find anything, right? If you've been following my channel for a while, you've already come to realize that I don't really believe in the whole one night stand lifestyle, okay? The way I present my dating advice is pretty straightforward, okay? It can work on pretty much any woman, right? But you're going to have to realize that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter unless you find a good long-term woman, all right? Don't buy into this. You got to have a bunch of women. Guys, a bunch of women just leads to a lot of drama and a lot of crazy. It's not worth it. It's just a short-term ego boost. So I want to help you find a wife. I want to help you find a godly woman, right? And a lot of people have a lot of different ideas on what this is, okay? Now, you have to take the scripture in its entirety. You have to look at what the Bible says about women, and you really have to look at what men are portraying to the world and look at why they're having a hard time finding godly women or marrying godly women, right? So let's talk about a couple things, right? First off, I want to talk about why it is so difficult for men to find godly women in the church. All right. Now, if you're a guy who's going to church or you've been to church, you might be frustrated. Okay. A lot of guys are having a lot of frustration, a lot of hard times getting women in church. In fact, a lot of women say that they don't want the guys in their church, and that's why they're finding guys outside of the church. That's why a lot of these girls end up going for what you think is the bad boy, right? The guy who's super far from God, all this stuff, right? But what's really going on there? Okay, guys, that's what we're going to talk about today. So what's really going on there? Well, why is it so difficult for men of God to find women? Well, guys, I'm going to be straight up with you. If you're involved in a Christian community and you're not having an easy time or you're not having any time at all talking to women that have any sort of interest in you, I can tell you why. All right? I can tell you why. I want you guys to succeed. I'm not here to make things more difficult for you, so I'm going to tell you why. It's because you are not masculine enough for her. Now, what does that mean? All right? Everybody's got a different idea of what that means, okay? So let's take this step by step. Guys, when you are trying to find a woman, this goes if you're a worldly guy, if you're a guy in church, you need to make sure you are a masculine dude. You need to make sure that you are living a life that women want to be a part of. Now, what in the world does that mean? A lot of you guys think that if you make a decent amount of money and you're a nice guy, women should just fall at your feet. Guys, welcome to the world. Most dudes are going to fall into that category. So something's going to be off, right? And it doesn't take a genius to realize it's not working, okay? So what's going on? What can you do different? Guys, what you're going to have to do is get out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to get things done as a man. You're going to have to go for the career you want to go for. You're going to have to wear the clothes that you want to wear. You're going to have to figure out what your standards are. You're going to have to figure out what you want and stand by it. You're going to have to essentially find a hill to die on, okay? Every man needs to have his own creed in a sense, okay? You need to figure out what makes you want to live. What gives you purpose? What makes you driven, okay? For everybody, that's going to be different. That's why I say if you want or you haven't been working out, you need to find what makes you excited to work out, okay? I don't care if you work out and you want to be a bodybuilder or you want to be a power lifter, you want to be an Olympic lifter. You need to find something that you enjoy. You don't have to do any of those. You can do something completely different. You need to find something that you enjoy. Same goes for your career. Stop going after the job that just pays you the most money. That's not going to give you a fulfilling life. Money is not going to fulfill you. It never does. If anything, it changes people. You end up hunting the money, worshiping the money. You end up living your life just, it's all about money, right? So figure out what you enjoy, go for what you want to go for. If something interests you, if you want to learn a trade and go for it. Stop thinking you have to go to college. If you want to go to college and you don't want to learn a trade, go to college, get your degree, and actually do something with that degree, right? Guys, there's this epidemic these days where I think most guys, they think that if they're just nice and they, don't really, ruffle any feathers, and they just keep to themselves, and they're just a nice guy, and they just sit around, that God's going to bring a woman to them, and this woman's just going to be like, hey, I've been waiting for a guy like you my whole life, a nice, kind gentleman who's just nice and kind. Guys, women want kind guys. Women want you to be kind, don't get me wrong, but you have to be able to be a man who is willing to die for something too. You have to be a man who's willing to protect, to provide, that has standards, right? You have to be both. If you can be both, guys, if you can learn to be both, women will run after you. They will come to you. Because here's what happens. If you live a masculine life, if you're going for what you want to go for, if you're pursuing what you want to go for, you're living a life that's joyful, you naturally become more aggressive in a healthy way, right? You start putting up with less people's crap, right? You stop letting people define you. Stop letting people's comments define you. A lot of you guys don't even realize this, but because you're nice, you just cave in. You let people steamroll over you. There's a difference between not caring, right? You can shrug something off, no problem. But a lot of you guys go home and you go, man, I don't like the way people treat me. I don't like the way people talk to me. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, here's the deal. One, you're probably hanging around the wrong type of people. Two, it's probably the way that you carry yourself. You're probably not sure of yourself. You probably think that if you just go under the radar, if you do just enough to get by, if you're a nice guy who gets along with everybody, that you're going to get what you want. Guys, newsflash, that's not how guys get what they want. Look around. Seriously, look around. Look at the guys that these women are bringing to church with them. Look at the guys that these women are actually marrying, right? You don't have to be a 6'3" jack dude, but look at these dudes. What do they all have in common? They are living their life, and they really don't care what anybody thinks, okay? Now, if you were that type of man in church who was a godly man, dude, game over. Game over. That's why dudes who are able to do both, that's why guys who are able to be a masculine man, who are able to be a godly, kind man, who are able to be a perfect balance, are able to get women. That's why I don't like what a lot of churches teach these days about just being nice, about just being kind, about just being loving, right? That's part of it, but there's also a time to stand up for yourself, defend others. We always talk about the verse where Jesus talks about Peter, put your sword back. Don't you know that, those who live by the sword will die by the sword? And we forget about the end of that. I believe it's in Luke. We forget about the passage where he also says, Jesus is also talking to his disciples once he's risen from the dead. He says, now you need to sell your cloak. You need to sell, if it means selling your cloak, you need to sell the clothes on your back to buy a sword, right? You need to defend yourself. You need to take a sword with you. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to defend yourself. That doesn't mean you go around being a psychopath murderer. That just means you defend yourself. Guys, if you don't know how to shoot a gun, go learn how to shoot a gun. Exercise your Second Amendment rights. If you guys think it's weird to have a pocket knife or to have self-defense items, get them. Learn how to use them. Sharpen them. Be okay with actually having it on you, of course, in areas that it's legal, right? But you need to be confident in who you are as a man. You need to be prepared. You need to be able to protect yourself, because you will carry yourself differently. You will believe in your abilities. You will be able to take care of others, but ultimately you know how to take care of yourself. Women love when men are taking care of themselves, all right? It's an instinctual thing. It's just like for a guy, if we see a woman who is investing into her looks, if she's taking care of herself, if she's making sure her hair is nice and her face is nice and she's not getting super fat, right? We look at those things and we go, oh, wow, she respects and honors her body. That's awesome, right? Women look at us in the same way, but they just look at us a little bit different. Yes, there's sexual attraction. Yes, there's obvious physical attraction. But to them, for us guys, it's so surface level, right? For most of us guys, it's just so, oh, she's beautiful. She's got nice curves, right? But for women, it goes a step further. They look at everything through a different lens. They look at this guy like, okay, if he respects himself, that means that he's not going to be able to be easily used or abused by others, which means that he's going to be able to provide for me and protect for me, right? And having that air about you, that aura of confidence, you're able to exude that everywhere you go, okay? All these things fall into each other. That's why you can't just focus on just going to the gym, not having a social life, or just having a social life but never being physically fit. All these things play into each other. You can get away with certain things for like a certain amount of time, but if you're a well-rounded man, that is going to be your best bet. But I would say the reason most men are having a hard time finding women in church most of the time, it's because they've bought into the lie that if you're a nice, kind, caring guy, that you're going to be able to get women. Women are going to come to you. But that's not true, because obviously that's not working out, right? Now, I'm not saying that you need to become the guy that every girl wants, because every girl's not going to want you. That's just a fact, okay? There are some women out there who are just not going to want guys in church anyway, who they don't have changed hearts, right? They don't have a spirit that's sealed by Christ. That's just the facts. They're going to go for a worldly guy. But I'm saying a lot of the times that women are going outside of the church to find men are because the men in church, yes, they're good guys on paper, you know, those long-term, those things are there, but there's nothing there to give them that spark, right? Let me put it this way for you guys. If you were to find a woman who was a little bit overweight, right? She didn't really take care of herself. She didn't do anything with her life. She didn't know how to cook or clean. Would you really marry her? Think about that. Now, some guys, if you're desperate, maybe you would. But I would say most of us, 99.9999% of us would go, I think I'm going to hold out, wait for someone who, you know, respects himself a little bit more. I'm going to wait for a girl who's a little bit prettier, right? I'm going to wait for a girl who's, you know, a little bit more well-rounded. Well, guys, girls are going to do the exact same thing. But as we know, it's a little bit easier for women in this day and age because we're not really in a time of, you know, crazy conflict or war or anything, you know, super threatening. We live in a pretty peaceful age at the making of this video. And so a lot of those survival things, you know, they're not really in place. So women are able to just hop on social media, hop on dating apps, and, you know, guys will flock to them, right? Good and bad guys. I made a video about that as well. So if you were, let's say you were a chick, right? Just put yourself in their shoes, man. If you could just hop onto a dating app and just throw a couple pictures up and you could have the pick of the litter, man, wouldn't that be nice? It'd be tempting not to utilize it, right? So you have to be a man that's worth looking up to. And I think a lot of men are having this issue. I know a lot of men are having this issue in church, in, you know, Christian communities, because they are not masculine. They bought into the lie that you have to be soft, you have to be kind, right? We've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. You have to be both, guys. I guarantee you, if you're both, you're going to get a lot of women. You're not going to know what to do with them. Now, the flip side of this is you got to be careful. All right. Now, before I jump into that, I want to talk about something else. If you're a nice guy in church, don't get me wrong, there's nice guys who can get women. The issue with this, guys, is you're probably going to get women who are going to be a little bit more on the, look, you're probably going to get women who are a little bit more, who have a little bit more baggage, okay? They might have lived a very, you know, worldly lifestyle for a little bit, and now they're coming around realizing that's not the life they want to live, and now they want a nice guy who's going to put up with them. Got to be careful of those types, guys. You got to look for a true heart change, okay? Because a lot of times these women, they might just got out of a bad relationship. They see you as a safe option, and then you find out months, maybe a couple years down the road, it's not what you thought it was. That person never really changed. So check yourself, because there's a lot of women who are infiltrating the church right now. I just made a video on this, that are looking for men who are going to put up with them, who are looking for loyal, kind, forgiving men who are going to put up with them, to use them. All right. And this is what a lot of Christian men, I believe, eventually settle for, right? Especially men who have problems with sexual sin. And by sexual sin, I mean primarily pornography. Because with porn, you guys have a warped sense of sexuality, and your body, your brain, your physiology, everything gets hooked on a artificial stimulus, and you start to put physical, sexual sensation over a true, meaningful relationship and over actually getting to know people, and your standards start to drop because you just want to find a woman that you can have sex with because you think that's going to fix you. Newsflash, guys, it doesn't. You need to make sure that you are okay before you get into a relationship. I guarantee you, God, if he has a daughter, if he has a, we're all God's children, but if God has a daughter that he's preserving for marriage, especially if she's like a virgin woman, do you think he's just going to give her over to anybody? Do you really think that he's just going to be like, oh yeah, this guy who's had a porn addiction for 20 plus years, who can't kick it, who, prays to me and asks me for help, but at the same time, as soon as he gets the urge, he just falls for it? Do you really think he's going to just hand over, you think you're going to have the pick of all the godly virgins? Guys, that's not going to be the case. All right. God's going to preserve his people, because what's going to happen is you're going to get into that marriage. You're going to get bored after a little bit of sex, right? And you're going to start to revert back to your old ways with porn, or you're going to step out on your wife. You're going to step out and commit adultery. Okay. Very common in marriages. Men fall out of attraction with their women. There's some men who won't, right? Who maybe they're just naturally geared to not. But eventually, if they do not cut out certain things, they're going to treat their wives a certain way. And their wives are going to fall out of attraction with them, which means that their husbands are going to be like, what the heck's going on? I don't have any intimacy anymore. So then they're going to start looking elsewhere. And so it's this cycle, guys. Okay. Now, you also got to be careful, because women, right, have their own baggage as well. If you have a woman who's self-obsessed with herself, some people say narcissistic, who, let's say maybe she's had a lot of boyfriends, or she's got a lot of, provocative pictures on social media and stuff, guys, you should probably not date them. Okay. Don't think you can change these women and save them and all that stuff, right? It's not going to happen. So Christian men are having a really hard time. Godly men are having a hard time dating, not just because of, the masculinity, guys, but it's also because of the type of women who are in the church. Okay. There's a lot of godly women in church who just don't know how to keep themselves off of social media, who don't know how to stop flirting because it's so easy, right? I talked about this in another video, but for women, they're finding out that if she's, pretty much addicted to social media, that the hit you get from the likes, that the hits that she gets, the dopamine hits, are similar to the dopamine hits that men get from porn, right? Yes, there's women who are addicted to porn. There's women who have problems with porn. I get that. But a lot of women are just addicted to attention. And so social media, it fills that void, right? Especially if these women, guys, hear me out here, because this is a cycle. Especially if these women have kind fathers who don't know how to put their foot down, who kind of let the mother run the house because they were never taught that you should be a masculine man. We have this weird idea going around in the church that you have to be a passive, submissive husband who can't ruffle any feathers, who can never tell his wife no, because that's abusive, because that's threatening, because that's over the top. Guys, that is a lie. All right. In the Bible, it clearly states that a woman is to submit to her husband. Now, a man is supposed to love his wife as Christ loves the church. That means sacrifice, guys. And as a man, if you don't know how to sacrifice your own lust, your own selfish ambitions, what do I mean by that? A lot of times we get these terms kind of jumbled together. Selfish ambitions mean, you know what, I'm going to spend all my money on, buying a boat, buying a nice big truck, buying a lot of guns, that I don't really need. I'm going to spend all that money on me. It's all about me and my toys. And whatever's left over, I'm going to provide for my family. They should be happy with what they have. My wife should be happy with what she has, right? Dangerous way of thinking, guys. Okay. That's not a sacrificial love. Or, yeah, I'm going to get married, but I'm still going to watch porn. I'm still going to flirt with other women. I'm still going to, there's guys who have justified in their minds, yeah, if my wife is this or that, yeah, even though we're married, I still have the right to do what I want. So I'll still, step out on her. She doesn't have to know. So, guys, you got to watch that. Okay. You really got to watch that. Sacrificial love is knowing that, hey, you gotta sometimes sacrifice your own prideful, selfish ambitions. Okay. You gotta, like, your prideful lusts, the things that you want that you think are so important, guys, are actually going to drag you down to the pits of hell, right? Even metaphorically speaking, in this life, your life will be hell because you're constantly drifting, you're constantly choosing your own ways over God's ways, all right? On the flip side of this, let's say you are a kind guy. Let's say you don't have a lot of problems with like porn and stuff, and you just want to be a nice, caring, loving guy, and you're doing everything you can to be that man. Guys, Christian women like that. Don't get me wrong. They really, really do like that. But they need a man who can step up to the plate and be a man. All right? Now, this is going to be a little bit harder if you've never been a man who's dated a lot or gone out with a lot of women. I'm not saying you have to have sexual experience, but you need to understand how women operate. You need to understand that she wants to be swept off her feet. You have to be the bad boy every once in a while. All right? You can't just be taking her out to Outback once a month and think that she's going to love you and just fall at your feet, right? You have to be an exciting dude. You have to be a dude who's going to be, tell her what to wear, right? Tell her, you know what? I want you to wear a red dress. I want you to be here at this time. We're going here at this time. Wear a red dress. Obviously, if you're married, you can get a little bit deeper with that and tell her what kind of like lingerie and stuff to wear too, right? Women want that. They want you to be like, this is what I want. This is what I want you to do, right? Especially if she trusts you and you guys have that mutual respect for each other. Oh, guys, she's going to love that, right? You're going to have to get a little forward, right? You're going to have to be a little forward with her, like in marriage, right? There's a time for being like lovey-dovey, ooey-gooey and stuff, but then there's time to just be a masculine man and just be a primal man, guys. Women love that stuff too, okay? Now, what do you do if you're not married? All right, what do you do if you're just dating? Guys, besides the sexual, the more sexual stuff, right? The more intimate things, what do? Guys, that means you're going out, you're doing fun stuff together. You're going out, you're doing things where you're moving around, right? Instead of just going out and watching a movie, right? Go and do some fun stuff. Go play a game of mini golf. Go to a park and play like frisbee. What is it? Disc frisbee golf or whatever it is. Go out and do stuff. Have fun. Go to like a little arcade, right? Play laser tag. Play arcade games against each other. Like, do fun stuff. Go bowling. Guys, you can get really creative with this stuff. You can go like explore certain areas and go to these little like events, these little music venues, right? You can go, there's so much to do. You can just look it up online. You can look at what's going on, on the weekend. It doesn't have to be the same thing every single week. Spice it up. Give it variety. She's got to know that, whoa, this guy's actually, wow, like he actually lives a life, right? Because if you don't, you're going to be that boring dude. She's going to lose attraction. She's not going to want to stay around with you. And what a lot of guys do, even if they're married in Christian, godly marriages, they fall out of that. They think it's okay, it's safe, they're married now, or they're too busy. Now they have a family, now they can't. Guys, your wife, even if you have kids, is still your number one responsibility, okay? I'm telling you, right? Obviously, your responsibility to God is the most important thing, but your wife, you're one with your wife. So your wife becomes, the Bible calls you to have that sacrificial love for your wife. You have to do that. You have to make her feel special. And guys, if you're with a godly woman, I think a lot of guys worry about this, and I'll close the video with this because, godly men are having issues with dating, but at the end of the day, if you're being honest with yourself, godly women are going to want to follow you. Godly women are going to want to do the right thing. You're going to have to lead them, right? You're going to have to show them the way at times. You're going to have to step up, be a man, be a leader, because that's what women want. You're going to have to be a fair man. You're going to have to be a just man. You're going to have to be a kind man, okay? You don't put up with crap. You don't reward bad behavior, right? But you also know that you have to basically praise her when she does good things. Proverbs 31 talks about let her works praise her in the gates. So you have to make sure that you are her number one teammate, that you're her, in a sense that you're her cheerleader, you're her cheerleader, right? She's your cheerleader, you're her cheerleader. You have to make sure that you guys are each other's just number one. And so if you guys are doing that, guys, everything's going to fall into place. Everything's going to make sense. But women who have a heart like that, guys, yes, they're hard to find. The Bible talks about it is hard to find a wife. But if you are living a truly godly life, if you are truly pursuing things in a masculine way, if you are truly hungry and thirsting for righteousness, if you are putting yourself around other people, if you are cutting off the sins of the flesh with the power of the Spirit, because you can't do it by yourself. Newsflash, you can't do it by yourself. You can try and try and try, but guys, the only way you can put off those things are by the power of the Spirit. If you're doing that, guys, if you are doing that, it is God's will for you to get married. If that is your desire, if you know within you that you want to be married, it's not just to have sex, but you want to be married, you want to have a family, you want to raise children in the fear of the Lord so that they live for the Lord, live after the Lord. You want to be that man of God. Guys, you're going to attract that woman of God. The Lord is going to lead you together. He's going to lead you to the right women. You're going to have to turn away the bad ones, right? Maybe you have to date for a little bit. Maybe you have to figure it out. You have to be strong, all right? But the Lord rewards those who diligently seek him. And a wife is a gift from the Lord. So remember that, all right? So it's really not as hard as a lot of people make it out to be. A lot of guys get down on themselves and they settle for the wrong women. Guys, I promise you, if you are a masculine man, you're going for what you want, and you are cutting off the things that you need to cut off, right, from your life, sexual addictions, being lazy, not pursuing what you need to do as a man. If you are living that life full throttle, guys, you're going to have too many women to choose from. So I hope this helps. I hope that you guys have some questions. And if you have video suggestions, or you want me to make a video on something, or you have a question, any comments, any experience you want to share, let us know below in the comments. But I'll see y'all at the next one.